and get started. So let's get your case back off. It's nice and clean. You know, the one thing about this movement that's so nice is that there is no water damage at all. There's never been water in this movement as far as I can tell. There are lots of little telltale signs that that water has made some intrusions in, and you know, those are just not here. You've got you know, a very nice set of things that are just telling you that, you know, for example, this outer spring around the outer edge, that's usually the first thing to sort of go if you've got bad water damage. Okay, so let's take a look here. Quite a bit of lubrication. You can definitely see some signs of heavy lubrication on your winding pulp. There's your reduction gear. Yeah, I mean, there's definite signs of service. You've got some grease here to. That's good. I mean, that's not bad to see, but just means that somebody has been doing some work here. Put that back real quick. Go ahead and let down your mainspring. See how far we were from a full wind. It's hard to say. Okay. All right. It's looking pretty good. And get the movement out of the case here. Wow, that little guy. Really not supposed to be there. Always check your pushers. Now, with normal service, I would say it's customary, if not expected, that you would reseal the watch, and clearly that has not been done on any of these surfaces. Luckily, this watch has been in storage or away somewhere, away from water, very far, and nothing has gotten in past these very plastic pushers, or pusher seals, I should say. So your sealing surfaces are definitely vintage, perhaps even original, but luckily the watch has survived. It's been either in a very dry environment or taken care of. But that is your supposedly rubber seal for your stem, and that's a piece of plastic at this point. Rubber just gets so hard over time it glassifies. It turns into a piece of glass, literally. Crystallizes and becomes very glassy-like. Okay, let's go ahead and get your moving out. This case is just beautiful. The sealing surfaces are perfect. No corrosion. Nice and clean. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit here to get this back to where we want to take the hands off. As you know, we've got some misalignment. Well, not necessarily misalignment, but issues with the positioning. Okay, leave that as it is. I actually want to just put it in this movement holder for a moment. Oh my gosh, that spring is... Okay, so one thing I will note that I didn't quite see because of the nature of the way the glass distorts the look a little bit is that you have a minor bit of pitting here on your dial face. It's not serious, but it is there. I just want you to be aware of that. Have some other minor imperfections. I'm not sure if those are through the lacquer or if they are just bits of dust. I'll check it just to be sure. Yeah, those are minor imperfections on the face of the dial. But right there, that is loss of surface, and I don't know if you can quite make that out. It's right here, just before your 1 o'clock marker. Okay, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get your hands off. Do a bit of double protection here. Make sure we don't scratch anything or disturb your surfaces in any way. There's your chronograph hand. And your minute hand. In a safe spot, and we'll move on and do your minute recording hand. And then we'll be able to see what's underneath your dial, which I think is an important component for your interest in trying to talk to the previous owner of this watch about next steps. So we'll take extra good care to look and see what that has to tell us. We'll also be able to take a look and see what the year of manufacture of your dial was and see how close that is to what's on the back of your case. Usually they are roughly about a month apart. Okay, no fuss. There, let's get that. Very good. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go ahead and get your dial separated from your movement. Okay, well, there we have it. You have a 1-7 on the back of your dial and a 1-8 on the back of your case. That's good. This is July 71 and this is August 71. Usually they're separated about a month, which is a good sign. So this is a very original set of components, and so that's a good thing to see. Okay, so now just a few more pieces to get to the parts that are potentially giving us some issue. This is such a bright movement. There's so many nice clean pieces here. It's amazing. All right, what I'm going to predict is that we have a broken gear on either your minute or your hour wheel on this side, or on your minute wheel. There's some gear that has a tooth missing. I'm sure of it. We'll see. We'll see how my assuredness actually is reflected in reality. But I make a prediction, and I'm going to stick to it for now until I see different. That is my hypothesis for today. But all these screws are nice and clean. All the surfaces are nice. I mean, you know, sometimes you work on these movements and they look like they've been, you know, underwater for a decade. But this one is not that way. Aha. It's even more complicated than I thought. That is our predicament. It is that. A plastic piece that has failed, potentially leading to a catastrophic inability to move the dial or move the hands. So I'm going to focus in here. This is a very minor thing. Your watch is fine. What has happened somehow is that the date changeover mechanism, that's this. So this day and date are operated by a set of fingers that are underneath of this plate and right here. That is all geared together. So you have this nice metal gear here, which is very robust. I was thinking that this might be damaged. That was my first prediction, was this. But this is metal, so there's no way that that's going to just crack and break. It's not a weak point in the movement. So we'll put that to get cleaned. That, from the movement of the cannon pinion and the coupling between the cannon pinion and the minute wheel and the minute wheel and the hour wheel, that then runs your day and date changeover. This piece here has the one piece of plastic that is in your movement. And that piece of plastic is screwed up. It is not where it should be, and it is a little bit off in terms of some scraping that has happened. Now, this is a very, very low budget piece right here. This costs nothing. This is a few dollars, and it's easily replaced, but it is certainly in need of replacement because it is bent, it is scraped, and it is worn. So that's the offending article. I guarantee it. Everything else has all the teeth are there, all of the pivots are correct, all these little things are right. I don't foresee any issues once we replace that piece, which I have in stock, so that's easy. So, breathe a sigh of relief. Everything's fine. Now, I'll check all these components to be sure, because sometimes these teeth can get out of plane. I've had them before where movements will stop working because one of these teeth has been bent and therefore digs into a part of the movement at a certain time. And yours looks good. There's some residual plastic from your finger. So we're going to replace this part. I think that'll lead to a much better operating watch. So that's good. Nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. We're in good shape. Okay. That was not what I was expecting, but it is a good thing to see that that's clearly the only real issue at hand. Everything else is looking really good. Aha, there's another sign. So interesting. Another sign that whomever was the previous technician, or however you want to call it, watchsmith that worked on this watch, wasn't a Seiko person. This one gear has two ways. It's degenerate. It can go in either this way or the way it was put in. This way is the factory way. Because of that little ring, and I'm not sure if you can see, that little ring is is like an oil gallery in a sense. So you could dip in and put a little bit of oil in that ring. Yours was facing down. It's supposed to be facing up. So somebody was either not careful or not familiar. It's a common thing to do. It's not a big deal, and it doesn't affect the function of the watch. But it's one of those things that kind of, within the Seiko service community, you would look at it and go, that person wasn't really trained on this. Take your die shock out. Okay, now we can remove your cannon pinion. Should pop right off. There we go. All right, next thing is the keyless works. So let's get that taken apart, and then we can get to your train side. Again, all of these components, these are the ones that are closest to your stem and crown. Oops. And your stem and crown are definitely avenues for water intrusion, because they are just a big metal pin that's supposedly sealed with an object like a O-ring, and they allow water and moisture to permeate the watch if they're not well sealed, and certainly your old seals aren't doing a great job of that, but it hasn't mattered because these are pristine components. You really did get a good watch. Don't second guess that. This is a great movement. Just one piece was out of whack for sure. Ooh, some gruck and grime down in there. We're going to clean that really well. Okay, so now we flip over your movement. Zoom back out a little bit here, give you a little bit of perspective. And let's get to this side. Whomever was here certainly had some limitations, but they didn't destroy your watch, that's for sure. Well, at least insofar as we've seen at this point. Okay, let's go ahead and get your other die shock out. Okay. Come on. Come out. There we go. Ready? Take your balance bridge and your balance mechanism. I want to take a very close look at this. Let me just do that now, in fact. See how flat we are. I want to look at your first glance, it's okay. I'm just checking the poise and the flatness of your hairspring, if that is bent or twisted, or somebody has done a bad job at servicing that, it can be costly as a repair. It's just time. They're not very fun to deal with, and they are time consuming, and labor is money. But I think we're looking okay. So far, so good. It's just that when people who don't really, that do things like this, if they get into a hairspring or start to tug on the balance, I get nervous. That's my one concern for owners and customers, is that I don't want to have to charge them more than what they want to spend when they have a watch that's good, that's just been worked on by somebody who didn't really take the time to do it well. So that's my only concern. Okay, here comes your palette fork, and I'm going to look very closely at these two these two stones here to see what the condition is. In the light, yeah, they are nice and flat. Not much lubrication on them, but certainly very flat. That's good. This movement doesn't seem to have a ton of miles on it, which is good. Oh, very loose. Woo. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take your top bridge off. One of the nice things that you can also see is if you look at your edges of these components and around the edges of the rest of your movement, a lot of times if a watch is worn badly, like it has a lot of wear, it's because it's been worn and worn and worn, and what you'll get is that this piece, the winding weight, will eventually loosen itself in the bridge that holds it. And that will lead to that rubbing up against these components over time, and you'll see the brass that's actually the under material that makes up these bridges shine through, which is not what you want to see, because that means that components are badly worn. Interesting, some hazing on this. Okay, so here's your chronograph mechanism. Here's your intermediate wheel. Here's your minute recording wheel. Nice and clean. These levers are clean. Man, so many of these watches have so much water intrusion and rust. They just look terrible. I mean, the only real issue with this one is, so far, is this weird spring here. What I might do, rather than replacing this, which is an option, so the earlier style movements, the A movements, well, I don't know if I can get away with it. We'll see. I might be able to replace it. We'll see. Okay, let's see what we got. Boy, that is a mess. Hey, that poor spring. Oh my gosh. I'll show you what one looks like in a minute. It's supposed to look like. Okay, there's your hammer. Goes into the bath. Alright, so your operating levers for your chronograph. Just get them pushed outward. There we go. And then your all-important chronograph wheel. This baby right here, if that goes wrong, that is a problem. But we'll see. We'll look at yours. It was running and it looked good, so I don't think we're going to have an issue. But certainly something we've got to test and lubricate properly and take care of. Crown wheel, column wheel. right. Make sure this comes off. And get your little washer. There's a small washer that sits here, bushing. And your levers come off. And another lever. All right. Good. Next thing, go ahead and do the looks all right. Take off your clicky spring for your good, 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 good. Couple more little pieces. This little bridge sits over top of your pivots. There we go. There we are. Nice and clean. Okay, last bridge. This is your train bridge. All right. There's your train bridge. Off. There's your train of wheels. Okay. Now, very gentle with your. Oh, that's nice. Good bit of resistance there. That's perfect. That's what you want to see. Woo. All right. So. Yeah, we're a little blown out on the bottom here. So that looks like original S2 lubricant from your mainspring has come out, and that forms a bit of a grinding paste over time, and you can see it's pushed out right in there. Definitely needs that lower mainspring arbor port jeweled. There's your escape wheel. We'll check all these for fit. How they look. Okay, this is your center wheel cock. It's one screw, the last one. And voila. That is your movement totally disassembled. There's your last wheel. It's your center wheel. Check that. Okay, that's it. That's everybody. Now, we're going to put a jewel here. We're going to put a jewel here. We'll take that bushing out and replace that with a jewel. And we will start getting everything back together once we're out of the cleaner. We'll take a close look at this under the microscope, look at all your jewels, existing jewels, and all the pivots, and make sure that everything's in good shape. We'll take apart your mainspring barrel and check your spring, see how good it's looking, and we'll go from there. Okay. Okay, Tom, we are ready to get started on the rebuild here. Everything came out of the cleaner. I wanted to point out a few quick things before we get too far. Here's your lower mainspring arbor port jewel, which is nice and new. And here is your upper mainspring arbor port jewel, which will make your watch hum along really nicely. So I'm very excited about those. So we're going to go ahead and get everything back together here. All right. Looks good. All right, so now we'll go ahead and start with your train of wheels. Give everybody a really close inspection. Make sure there's nothing here other than the wheels themselves. Everybody's nice and clean. So there's your third wheel. And your chronograph wheel. Okay, that looks really good. So let's go ahead and get that lubricated. One more drop. Good. Okay. All right. Now for your escape wheel. Check that very closely. All right. All right. Now, pretty simple starting point, and then we go with our bridge. Train bridge here. And that went perfectly into place. Very nice. All right, everybody looks happy in their positions. Go ahead and drop some screws in. We'll keep checking to make sure all the alignment is good from beginning to end. Such a clean movement. Really happy with the way this came out. That's good. Okay, let's go ahead and do some lubrication. These little pieces have a mind of their own. I'm going to go for a little walk around the block where they go into place. Okay. Now, put in your ratchet wheel and your spring, essentially a click spring. Okay. Now we get to build out your chronograph components. So start with your levers. First we have to add some lubricant though. So lubricate your pivots, pivot points. All these. We need some little more heavy duty material here for a few of these points along the way. Okay. So I like to use a little bit of grease on this surface. There we go. And that works. Right. Your other operating lever. And we'll put a little heavy duty lubricant on that as well. That region takes a lot of stress. Okay. All right, we get your bushing. Give that a touch, lubricant. And your column wheel. Everything just came out so clean. I mean, when you start with a super clean movement like this, you really do end up with a very nice looking setup. It's just so nice. Okay, let's get your wheel in place. That's good. Now I have to lubricate those components. Everybody's looking good. Get your retaining screw. All right. Now comes a few extra pieces. One spring. And I was able to actually put your spring back the way it should be. Instead of replacing it, you get to keep your original spring. And that's always a bonus, in my opinion. So that's nice. Done. Let's get your lever spring in place. Let me change out my cots here. Sorry for the noise. Okay, here's one spring. Let's go ahead and get your hammer back into place. Everybody wants to make noise while I'm working. Okay, now we get to actually put your spring back where it's supposed to be, which is up here, and not shoved underneath of that lever. Okay, so that's perfect. Good. Everybody's happy where they're supposed to be. Okay, that's a good start. Let's go ahead and get your minute recording wheel. In place. Come on. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Get your intermediate wheel. There we go. Okay. So that's everything built out for your chronograph assembly. Now we put your bridge in place. So here's your chronograph bridge. Your upper bridge here. All right. Looks pretty good. Oops. Come out of there. Stop flying around. Okay. Here we go. And let's make sure everybody's turning as they should. That's good. Yep, that looks good as well. Excellent. Okay. Everybody's nicely seated, so let's go ahead and get the last of these screws in. We can also lubricate this lever and spring setup. This is to return your hammer. Okay. There we go. Let's get that in place. And there we go. Starting to run. That's what we want. One more screw up top. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and put your pallet fork in place. Right. All right. Okay, that's good. Let's keep going. We're gonna flip your movement over in a second and lubricate your other jewels. Put your cannon pinion on, and then we'll be back over to the other side. Okay. Get your die shock jewels in place. Let's get you lubricated here. All right, let's get your cannon pinion on. Looks good. Okay, that's basically all we need to do on this side. Now, come back, and we're going to put in your balance assembly and look for a heartbeat. Let's get this little bit of power in your mainspring. There we go. Okay. The moment of truth. Will it run? That is the question. It wants to move. That's a good sign. Now we get to do the fun part. Drop in the balance. Come on. Get where you're supposed to be. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Sometimes they drop right in, sometimes they want to fight a little bit. This one's a fighter. There we go. There we go. That's what we want to see. Alright, let's get some screws in place, and then we'll get your... Oops, not that screw. That's not the screw we want. It's this one. There we go. Hopefully we'll see much better numbers come out in this. Okay. Get your jewel back in place. hairspring. There we go. All right, that is your movement built. Now, the question is, will we have good numbers? That is always the question at the end. How will it run? Okay. Well, I am already excited. We start off in the 220s after a couple seconds. I think we're actually starting off really well. So let's see how we do. Let's get some of this beat error out. And then we can adjust from there. Is that the right direction? Nope. Of course not. Good. So what I'm doing is I'm adjusting essentially the relative length of the hairspring and the position of the stud where the hairspring attaches, and that helps me adjust for beat error and the amplitude and the rate. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit, which can oftentimes affect your beat error as well. Yeah, as I suspected. So let's keep going with some adjustment. Your hairspring is moving pretty well. We'll keep adjusting. We're approaching 230 at this point. I think we're in really good shape. This hasn't even broken in yet. It's good. Wow. It's a runner. I always tell people, you start off with a good movement, you end up with a great movement. The better it is to start, the better you're going to do. Look at that. That's lovely. Okay, let's get some of that rate out. Just very slow movements. Alright, let's bring some more of that rate down. So now what I'm doing is I'm adjusting where the hairspring is, in a sense, pinched by the movement here. Okay. If we get all that beat error out. Oh my goodness, 236s already. Well, I say we're doing okay. I'm just going to leave that for a minute and we're going to watch it. So all the lubricants are sort of moving around and getting themselves situated. I mean, 240 to begin with. That is a runner. So this is happy stuff. Anything above 230 is amazing. Anywhere between 240 and 250 is like factory. So I think if we can get to 240, there we go. We're doing great. Okay, well, now the easy part. It's just pieces. So I think we've done really well. This is exactly what I want to see. Yeah, Tom, you're gonna be really happy with this movement. It is a great timekeeper. I mean, we are just out of the gate here, and I mean, I very, very rarely see movements with this level of amplitude and accuracy. It's stellar. So yeah, I'm going to call that one ready to go. So we're going to get it all back together, and you're going to have your watch in just a few days. We're done. This is awesome. No extra work to be done. Okay, I'm going to start with the calendar side. Okay, let's go ahead and get the calendar side completed. And that way we can start going back together. So I need to lubricate these different points here. There's a couple different kinds of lubrication to use depending on the area of the watch that's being lubricated, actually. So some parts are like part of the gear train. They interact with the gear train, and they need light lubrication. Turns out that you have some metal components here that require. Yeah, so we're going to put that in the right direction, and facing that bend facing up in this direction. All right, so we're going to get a few of your components here. And there's your calendar wheel, intermediate wheel. All right, let's get your hour wheel in place. All right. Now, I've replaced this offending article, and so this new one goes right here, not buckled, not bent, not destroyed, but in good shape. And we'll go ahead and get this plate. The only plastic piece of your watch, and it was the only one that I've ever seen have a problem, to be honest. They're all fairly robust. But yours is now perfect. You shouldn't have any problems with anything binding at this point. Yep, so that's the way that should work. Okay, so now we're going to build out your keyless works. So first, with a little bit of lubrication, as always. These teeth need to be lubricated. And these 6139s have the most straightforward and simple style of keyless works. It's just so simple and robust. There's no extra springs or goofiness. It's all just stamped pieces that fit together and don't give you any trouble. It would be great if this had, hacking and hand winding, but that's okay. It's still a great movement, regardless. I like the design of the 6138s, which has a hand wind mechanism. It's just such a convenience to be able to get in there and wind it, but that's okay. These still run fantastic. I really like them. Put some lubrication on all these heavily worn areas. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get your setting lever. Get some D5 on this. Some more heavy lubricant on this. Just a little drop. and spring combination. This is the ingenious part right here. This just is so nice. Just works. In fact, I'm going to take it back out one more time. But add a little drop there on the end. Alright, let's get your keeper in place. Another small touch of lubrication here. Right, good. Sorry to be a little out of frame here. Sometimes I just get ahead of myself and stop paying attention to the camera, which I guess is good if I'm paying attention to the watch. Okay, so let's get your plate here in place. Just hold your minute wheel. Alright, 2 different screws for this one. You got a machine screw for this side. And a taper head screw here. Go ahead and get these nipped down. Alright, now one more lubrication point here. My dog is snoring in the background, which is always a little funny. Okay, now we need your automatic date advancing component, and we're going to put your jumper for your date. Goes right here, another stamped out spring that's just so nice and easy. Gets one little drop of lubrication right there. Alright, now for your calendar components, we're going to use your very nice date wheel. It goes in place just like so. Perfect. That really looks good. That is super clean. This whole movement is just so impressive, I have to say. It's really nice. Not very often you see them in this sort of condition. Such a pleasure to work on one that's not a total mess. So often you see them, they're just really harsh. I just finished restoring one for myself that lived a tough life somewhere in Southeast Asia somewhere, and it was a nightmare. Every pivot was just corroded and gross, and it was a real adventure, to say the least. But that is not the case here. It's a great starting point movement for a really nice watch. I would not normally say that for a lot of these, but this one has been spared a hard life, you can tell. And now it is ready for a nice collection or to wear even every day. It's a great piece. Okay, so calendar side almost finished. We got to put your lovely Spanish English day wheel in place. And there that goes. And your C-clip, which goes chamfered side facing down, so the next watchmaker can actually get the darn thing off. Okay, so now let's see what we got. I'm going to look very closely at the operation of your perfect. Okay, that's exactly what we want to see. Your automatic changes perfectly. That is calendar side complete. Okay, now it is the dial and hands. All right, Tom. Well, we've gotten to a really good point here in your restoration. I'm going to start getting your case put back together. I went ahead and cleaned it really carefully. It was very clean to begin with, but I figured, you know, you're going to get a new crystal. You had some definite grime and just wear related dirt and things inside of some of your pushers and your crown. Overall, it was extremely clean. Your case was really, really nice and remains very nice. Your pushers are nice and clean on the inside, so they're in good shape. And now we get to do your final assembly here. A couple components to go back together. And we will be ready to go. All right, just get your retaining ring all cleaned up, ready to go back in. Okay. All right, now we get to finish by building out your automatic winding components, doing a bit more lubrication, and then we are ready to do our final checks. Two unique screws on this movement. They are a different pitch, thread pitch, than screws of the same size that are also in the movement, and so you have to kind of keep them separate so that you don't accidentally put them in the wrong place, because if you do, you will not be able to retrieve them easily. Okay, there's that, and now your winding weight. Clean up here. Take one last go through your movement. Okay. And there's your weight. And with that, okay, there's your lovely case back seal. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look where we are. here. Go through all the different things that we did with your watch. Okay, so first things first. We are now at 7 o'clock, so let's advance and look at that. No problem. So that issue that was there, that was simply just that one piece, and I'll show you the exact one. Let's do a final assessment here and go through some of your things on your watch. So, new crystal. I cleaned your case, no polishing of course, but just cleaned it. You have new pushers, seals, new crown stem seal, new case back seal. I didn't do anything to your dial or your tacky ring. It was all very good. Your hands, I just tried to get some of the haze off. I didn't go too far with these. They're really great the way they are. They show their age nicely, and the loom is very consistent everywhere. Your minute hand has a slight convexity, if you will, or a slight bend upward. I didn't try and remove it simply because where the bend meets its maximum, that's right in your loom. And so I knew that as soon as I would try and return that hand to a perfect straight flat configuration, the loom would crack. So I just left it, simply because you'll never see it, for one, unless you're really looking hard, and you don't want to mess with the loom at all. It's too good the way it is. So your watch came out amazing. I was able to get your spring back into straight configuration, which is where it's supposed to be. We went ahead and jeweled your upper and lower mainspring arbor port. That's actually your upper mainspring arbor port bushing that we replaced with a jewel. Your old seals. So these are your case back seals, your pusher seals, your crown seal. They're all in here. Here's your old crystal, some old seal material. There's your offending article. This is the thing that led to so much consternation about the state of the movement. I've never seen one fail. Maybe it was put in sort of in a crisscross kind of way. But you can see, oops, it's somewhere. I'll pick it up. What you could see, if we could find it, these things tend to go, I'll find it and return it to you, but it's a $12 part. It's nothing, honestly. Let me get it back. Now that we have it back on the bench, let's take a close look. It's got a big crease in it here, and that's probably due to somebody just putting it back together and not having it in the right configuration when they put it back in. But what that led to was some real issues with the functioning of your calendar side of your watch. When this binds up, essentially your cannon pinion was just slipping on your hour gear, and that's it. Well, we're back to functioning state. Everything else was fine. That one spring, like I said, I was able to straighten it out, so it's in good shape. But these will all come back to you, so you can look at them, and we'll get your watch back to you. I'm going to go ahead and put your bracelet back on, and we will get settled up. All right, so again, everything works exactly as it should. And there's your lovely 6139 6012. Just a great watch. All right, thank you very much, and we'll be talking soon. All right, Tom, here are your final numbers on your movement. Really just incredibly solid. 250s, no beat error. 0 to 1 second per day. That's about as good as they get, to be honest. It's just really fantastic.